ॐ त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तिसुदेशिकेन्द्रं द्वैपायनं सूत्रकृतं मुनीन्द्रं श्रीशङ्करं भाष्यकृतं यतीन्द्रं मद्देशिकञ्चापि नमामि विद्यै। ओम नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्म विद्या संप्रदाय कर्तृभ्यो वंश ऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहित प्रज्ञानगणः प्रत्यगर्थो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। Promise everyone. So in this introduction to Vedanta, we did a Jiva Vichara. And then we did a Ishvara Vichara in terms of understanding who is Ishvara. And then we did a Jagat Vichara in terms of the universe. And then in the last class, we also saw creation. Creation is nothing but manifest and unmanifest of the universe. So there is a Srishti and a Pralayam. And we saw the stages of creation. We saw Maya is the causal matter behind the creation. And from the Maya, the first thing that comes out is Sukshma Prapancha, the subtle universe that comes out. The subtle universe has 5 elements: Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha and Prithvi. Space, air, fire, water and earth. They are all in the subtle form, not the form that we see right now. And we saw that these 5 elements have inherently 3 qualities built into it: Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And therefore there are 5 times 3 elements that are created. We have Sattvika, space, air, fire, water and earth. We have Rajasic, space, air, fire, water and earth. And then we have Tamasic, space, air, fire, water and earth. So 15 items, the first form of Sukshma Prapancha Srishti. The second stage is where Sukshma gets converted to the next Sukshma elements, Prapancha Bhutas become Sukshma Shariras and then Stula Prapancha. So we saw the Sattva elements of the Sattva component of the elements, the 5 elements. They are responsible for the creation of the Sukshma Sharira, especially the Jnanendriyas, the ears, skin, eye, tongue, nose. The Sukshma Sharira is created from the Sukshma Panchabhutas with the Sattva Guna as the key generator. And the mind itself is a combination of all the 5 Sattva elements. Then the Rajoguna acts as the generator, and the Rajas components of those 5 elements, they are responsible for creation of Sukshma Karmendriyas. Sukshma Karmendriyas meaning our speech, hands, legs, anus and genitals, the Sukshma aspect of it. Vak, Pani, Padam, Payuhu and Upastha. And the Rajas components of these 5 elements together, they are responsible for creation of the Pancha Pranas. prana, apana, vyana, samana, udana. So right now, just to recap, the Pancha Bhutas are created, the Sukshma Pancha Bhutas, and from the Sukshma Pancha Bhutas we created the creation of the Sukshma Sharira happened. Now the next stage is the Tamoguna elements, the Tamoguna component of elements, they are responsible for the creation of the Sthula Panchabhutas. The Sthula Panchabhutas is what we see today: earth, air, fire, water, all those things. The gross elements that we see. But even these gross elements, they are not exactly one to one. We saw that the Sukshma Akasha does not directly become the Sthula Akasha. The Sukshma Akasha mixed with the other four elements also combined to form the Sthula Akasha. So it is mixed with others. The Tamogana of these five elements get intermixed. And this process is called as Panchikaranam in our Shastras. So the gross space has got 50% of space, Sukshma space, and the remaining 50% is 12.5% each of other Sukshma elements. In the same manner, air, fire, water, and earth. So these are the stages of creation, and from these Panchabhutas, the Sthula Panchabhutas, the universe, the matter, what we see, all come up. The physical bodies are created from these five gross elements. The Sthula Shrishti happens. So this is the process of creation, and we saw this in the last class. Maya being the causal matter behind the entire creation. And as I said, this is matter is neither created, energy is neither created nor destroyed, so it keeps going back. Is this only the human bodies? What was the question? Is this only the human bodies or all the other creations in the world? All the creations in the world. The Sthula Prapancha as we see now is all out of the same Sthula Panchabhutas. Now then we said, now we have seen this creation and dissolution. Now the next one is, suppose we say, one of the things that the Shastra says is Jiva and Ishvara are one and the same. The question is, how can me who is this individual, how can I be the same as Ishvara? I am after all Alpa Shakti. Ishvara has got enormous Shakti. He is Sarvajna. He is all knowledge. I have got only Alpa Jnana. He is omniscient. I am very limited. So how is this? How can we consider both of them to be one and the same? So that's why the Mahavakyas come about. So the Mahavakyas basically talk about the Ishvara Jiva Sambandha. They say Ishvara and Jiva are one and the same. Tattvamasi is there. Aham Brahmasmi is there. Prajnanam Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. So these are all Mahavakyas which basically say Jiva and Ishvara are one and the same. And we saw that normally Jiva and Ishvara are one and the same. Now, if Jiva and Ishvara are really different, if Jiva cannot be the same as Ishvara, then Shastras will not proclaim that. It will not proclaim that Jiva and Ishvara are one and the same. That's the first point. But if Jiva and Ishvara have no differences at all, then the Shastras will not need to proclaim that Jiva and Ishvara are one and the same also. You got my point? If they are one and the same, if I can understand that I am the same as Ishvara, then the Shastras need not actually call it out. It's known. It's known to everybody. Or if I can never be the same as Ishvara, I cannot be Ishvara, and I am totally different from Ishvara, then the Shastras also the Shastras will not proclaim that Jiva and Ishvara are one and the same. So when does this proclamation come? Because Jiva and Ishvara are seemingly different, but underlying are one and the same. This principle is only in the Advaita philosophy. Yes. Only Advaita philosophy calls Jiva and Ishvara to be one and the same. Not Dvaitam, not Visishta Dvaitam, or not Sankhya. In no other philosophy, Jiva and Ishvara are considered to be one and the same. So, here, Jiva and Ishvara, seemingly they seem to be different, but underlying seem to be the same. And we saw that example like 9 minus 2, 3 plus 4. 9, 2, 3, 4, minus, plus. None of these are seemingly different, each one, if you look at it individually. But underlying 9 minus 2 is 7, 3 plus 4 is 7. Underlying they are one and the same. So we have to analyze, we have to apply certain laws, and we are able to get the result that we want. In the same way, in our Sampradaya, there is an example. We'll first see that small story or example, and then we will try to derive how the Jiva Ishvara relationship is clear. So suppose there is a person in a village. He is about 25 years old. He leaves the village, comes to the city. And 20 years he has not gone back to the village at all. So he's in the city for the last 20 years. When he was in the village, he had a neighbor, a friend of him, who had a small kid by name Krishna. So Krishna was 5 years old when he left the village. Now, for the last 20 years, he had not been to the village. Now, 20 years later, his neighbor comes to visit him. And the neighbor comes along with another person, and then he says, just give me a second. I got some office thing, sorry. Okay. So the neighbor comes and visits him and says, this guy who was moved from the city long back, he inquires his neighbor, how is he doing, and he inquires about his son Krishna. How is Krishna? Where is he? And then the neighbor points to the person standing next to him and he says, that Krishna is this Krishna. He says, that Krishna is this Krishna. That's all. Now this person understood. It is easy for us to understand, but we can do a small kind of an inquiry into this statement. That Krishna is this Krishna. Generally, the word that it is used to refer to, things either which is distant in space, like we say that book, this book, that chair, this chair. So that is used to refer to things in the at a distance, or it can be used to denote things in the past. We say that time, this time, during that time, during this time. So that is past tense, this is present tense. So if I look at it, that place, this place, that place can never be equal to this place. Similarly, that time, this time, that time can never be equal to this time. So that and this can never be equal. So here this neighbor says that Krishna is this Krishna. So this is also like an equation. So we can say, we have to understand that. So what we have to do, when we say that Krishna, what the Krishna that was associated at that particular age, that particular place, that Krishna is the same Krishna that is associated to this age and this place. So we then what we do? We do a analysis and we say, we remove the age and place associated with that, with the word that Krishnan. With that Krishna, we remove that age and place, and with this Krishna also we remove the age and place, and then we look at the component Krishna and say this Krishna and that Krishna are one and the same. So the conflicting, contradicting words that and this is related to this Krishna, and it is presented to us as an equation, and we remove the differing attributes. Which is basically the name, the age, the place, and we look only at the person and then say they are one and the same. And we also know that when that person said that Krishna, this Krishna, he was not referring to two Krishnas there. He was referring to only one Krishna. We just removed the unwanted attributes, and then we understood that they are one and the same. If we do not remove these attributes, then we will never be able to accept that fact that that Krishna is this Krishna. Suppose if I say I will not remove that attribute called that from this sentence, then I will be stuck with that Krishna of 5 years old in the village, that small boy, and now this young man. I will never be able to accept it, because if I retain that, the word that in that sentence. So what do? We remove the differences in time and place, and we, with the reference to the body, we accept that there are not two Krishnas but only one Krishna. This is the example that Shastra gives us for us to understand Jiva and Ishvara are one and the same. So, the same way, when we say if Jiva and Ishvara are one and the same, what is the condition? There should not be any differences actually, but there should be some differences seemingly, superficially. Apparently there are some differences, but underlying there should be one and the same. And how did we do that? What did we do for Jiva? We said Jiva. Jiva, we said Jiva has got two components, Atma and Anatma. And then we split Anatma as 3 bodies. And we said Jiva is a mixture of both these 3 bodies plus this Atma. And then we sort of discerned that Atma and Atma. We said, we used what? We used Drik Drishya Viveka, seer seen Vichara. We understood that our Anatma is an object, Atma is the subject. As I said, the same Atma we can also do the Panchakosha Vilakshana Atma. Panchakosha Vilakshana Atma meaning these 5 sheets that we talked about, the Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manonmaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha, those 5 sheets Atma is the underlying consciousness principle beneath these 5 sheets, acting as the witness. It is none of these 5 sheets. In the same way, we can say Avastatraya Sakshi. Avastatraya Sakshi Viveka is where the Atma is the consciousness, the witness consciousness that is present throughout all the 3 states of experience. Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, in the waking, dream and deep sleep state. It is not the waker, it is not the dreamer, it is not the deep sleeper. It is the consciousness beneath. It is the underlying consciousness who is the witness, which is the witness principle in all these 3 states. And we saw that the Atma is the awareness, sentient knowledge principle. Atma is the one who is the awareness principle. When we saw Drigdrishya Viveka, we said anything that can be an object of experience cannot be the subject. So if I am able to experience something, I am not that. I am able to experience this world, I am able to experience my body, I am able to experience my mind, I am able to experience my intellect, and therefore I am none of them. And then we did some corollaries, and then we started defining. We came out with saying that Atma should be nirvikara, should be changeless. It is the changeless witness principle across. There is a deep sleeper, there is a waker, there is a dreamer, but Atma is changeless. It is the same awareness principle which doesn't change across these 3 states. Atma is not the one which goes to sleep. Atma is not the one who dreams. Atma is not the one who is in deep sleep. Atma is not the waker. Whereas Anatma is the one which goes into all these conditions. And we saw that Atma Ekaha. And we saw the example of the light reflecting on the body, on the hand. The reflected light is not part of the body, so it is different from the body. It is Atma is different from Anatma. So we did a Jiva Vichara. We have Jiva is a underlying. See, still when we call ourselves as Jiva, we are a mixture of Atma and Anatma. As Jiva, whenever you see in Shastra a term called Jiva, it means both Atma and Anatma. Just understand that. And whenever we say Ishvara, especially Saguna Ishvara, it is Brahman plus Maya. So when we did this Ishvara Vichara, we said, we used what? We used Karya Karana Vichara. Cause and effect. We said that everything will have a cause. Intelligent cause and a material cause. The Nimitta Karana and the Upadana Karana. And then we saw that the effect is nothing but Nama Rupa. It is nothing but an name and form of the cause. The necklace is a name and form of gold, for gold. The ring is name and form for gold. Pot is name and form of clay. Just a name and a form. Clay is Karana. Clay is the cause. Pot is the effect. Clay can exist without the pot. I remove pot, I still have clay. Whereas if I remove clay, there is no pot. So in the same way, world is name and form of Ishvara. I remove Ishvara, there is no world. Even if I remove world, there is still Ishvara. Ishvara is Satyam. World is Asat. So this is the Upadana Karana, we explained this way. And then we saw that Ishvara is also the Nimitta Karana, intelligent cause. Because for any creation, you need to have both an intelligent cause as well as a material cause. And this intelligent cause, we call that as Brahman. That knowledge principle to be called as Brahman. So Ishvara as a principle Brahman and Maya, Jiva as a principle Atma and Anatma. And Shastras in the Mahavakya says, this Atma that we talk about in Jiva and the Brahman that we talk about in Ishvara are essentially one. Repeat. The Atma that we talk about in Jiva and the Brahman that we talk about in Ishvara are essentially one. Tat Tvam Asi, thou that art. So then the question will come, if Jiva Atma and Ishvara's Brahman are really one, then why should they be given two names? So the answer is, if it is sustaining one body, it is called as Atma. If it is sustaining all bodies, it is called Brahman. So at the Vyashti level, it is called by the name Atma. As in the microcosm level, it is Atma. At the Samashti level, at the macrocosm level, it is called as Brahman. So therefore, that is why we say Jiva Atma, and for the Brahman we sometimes use Parama Atma, Paramatma. So Jivatma, Paramatma. I'll give you an example for this. The Vyashti Samashti. So there are four walls here. The space enclosed within by these four walls is called a room. The space enclosed by these four walls is called a room. The space enclosed by this compound is called a house. Essentially, it is the same. This is also space, that is also space. It is the same space. Property wise, there is no difference. And tomorrow, if the walls are removed, they are one and the same. You will not call this space as to be different from that space. From a convenience standpoint, we call this as room, and that to be house. And for a convenience sake, we say this space is limited, that space is vast. But essentially, the boundaries are imaginary. Essentially, it is within space these walls have been created. There is only one space. Space cannot be divided. We are, even within the wall there is space. The walls are within space. So essentially, it is one and the same. There is only one space. In the same way, there is only one Atma. At the level of Jiva, it is called as Jivatma. At the level of the universe, it is called as Paramatma. The Atma Chaitanyam is Ekam. That one and only Chaitanyam is expressing through everything, through the entire matter principle. That Chaitanyam, when it is experiencing or functioning through the individual matter called Shariratrayam, this body, then it gets the name Jivatma. When the same consciousness is functioning behind the total matter at the Samashti level, through the Prapanchatrayam, because there also we have causal matter, subtle matter and gross matter. When the same Atma is functioning through that Prapanchatrayam, it is called as Paramatma. There is only one Atma. Jivatma, Paramatma are only names. It is the name given from the standpoint of the medium through which it functions. So, water is essentially one and the same. If it is seen from the beach, you can see waves. Waves are small. Waves, there is also the vast ocean. Ocean or waves are essentially one and the same. Both are water. When it is seen through the prism of from the beach, from what we see near from, and we see it operate as waves, we see them as waves. When we see them in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of the sea, it is ocean. It is called as ocean. Essentially, it is one and only water. In the same way, Jivatma and Paramatma are one and the same. So, the Shastras does a Samanvaya and say that is how the Shastras do a Samanvaya, and then say Jivatma and Paramatma are one and the same. So we do a Vichara on Jiva. We say Jiva, we have to remove, we removed the age and the place from that Krishna and this Krishna. We will have to remove the Sharira Trayam from here. We have to remove the Maya principle from here. And then we say essentially Atma and Brahman are one and the same. So from the standpoint of Atma, Jiva and Ishvara are one and the same. Question is then, in what standpoint then they are different? From the standpoint of Anatma, we are different. Shariratrayam, there is Maya. So if I include the concept of Jiva, if I include the Shariratrayam as an individual, if I associate myself with this body, then of course I can never be equal to Ishvara. If I associate myself with this body, then I am Alpajna. I've got limited capability. I've got limited knowledge. My intellect is limited. Then I become Karta and Bhokta. I become a doer. I become an enjoyer. So I have to perform actions. I will have to experience the results of my action. And who is Ishvara then? Ishvara becomes Karma Pala Data. Ishvara is the giver of the results. Ishvara is Akarta, he is Abhokta. So if I associate myself with this body, mind complex, I cannot claim myself to be the same as Ishvara. I cannot claim myself to be Ishvara. Only when I look at it from a standpoint of Atma, I can say Jivatma and Paramatma are one and the same. So this is the relationship between Jiva Atma and Parama Atma. This is an important concept. This is the concept behind Advaita Vedanta, where we say Jiva Atma and Paramatma are one and the same. That the consciousness principle, the awareness principle, the Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means existence, Chit means consciousness. The Sat Chit Ananda means limitlessness. Ananta. It was also considered to be bliss, because anything that is limitless is bliss. Satchit Ananta. Satchit Ananda, we say. This is the essential oneness principle behind Advaita Vedanta. And this consciousness is Satyam, as in it exists on its own. The matter is Mithya. Matter is Mithya, meaning matter is seemingly existent, or it has got a limited existence. Satya means eternal. It is always be there. The Brahman always exists, whereas Maya, there is a change in name and form. There is a destruction of Maya, as in it gets into another form. The bodies die, the physical body die. We take another physical body and all those things. So it's not it, and it depends on the Satyam, Maya for its it depends on the Brahman for existence. Maya is sustained by Brahman. Maya cannot be on its own. Maya is just matter principle. Matter alone cannot exist without the awareness knowledge principle. Matter is just a name and form. Matter or energy is just a name and form. We saw that. And what Shastras say even more is with regards to what is the relationship between Brahman and Maya. It says Maya is also just a name and form. It cannot exist on its own. We saw that the Upadana Karana, Maya is just a causal. Maya is the Shakti of Ishvara, and it has evolved into this universe, and the universe will go into the dissolution stage. So which means it is seemingly existence, but it is only it doesn't have its own individual existence. Its existence is dependent on Brahman. Brahman Satyam, Maya Mithya. And the analogy that you have to use here is, there are two analogies. One is clay and pot. So Brahman is like the clay. It is the one that is giving the existence to the pot. Wood and furniture, gold and ornaments, water and waves, tanks, oceans, whatever. So Satyam means independent. Brahman is independent. Mithya means dependent. Atma is one, Anatma is many, Atma is Satyam, Anatma is Nitya. Advaita Vedanta further goes in terms of explaining this Mithya. It says it is name and form. The pot we see is name and form. of Brahman, which means, but Brahman by itself is not actually, so there are no two different substances. We have to understand now, we are slowly coming to this essential oneness. What does Advaita say? Advaita says is Advaitam, non-dual. There is nothing other than Brahman. So far we have been only in this duality. So far we have been saying Maya, Brahman, Atma, Anatma. So there are two things we've been saying. Slowly, finally Advaita comes to the stage where it says there is nothing other than Brahman. Brahmaiva Satyam. Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya. Jiva Ishvara Naparaha. These are the three main important statements of Advaita Vedanta. Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya, Jiva Ishvara Naparaha. Means Brahman alone is Satyam. Jagat, this universe, and this universe includes this body, our Anatma, this body, Sharira Trayam. Jagat Mithya. It doesn't have its own existence. And there is no difference between Jiva and Ishvara. Jiva, Ishvara, Napara. Now, I will give you an example of how the essential oneness is explained in Shastras. So you say it's a evening time, and the sun is setting, and you're walking in a forest, say for example, in the forest on distance you see a snake lying in the middle of the road or in the middle of the path. You are afraid, you don't want to go beyond it, you want the snake to move. It is not moving. You wait for some time, it is not moving, and then you take a long stick, and you try to go near the snake and prod the snake so that it will move. You prod the snake, you realize that it is not moving on its own, only it seems to move only along with the stick. And then you push it further, and then you realize that it was not a snake in the first place. It was just a rope. But the rope has appeared to you as a snake. Now what happens? From a distance you had seen the snake. You had got the emotions. The rope was real. The snake was superimposed on that rope. In the same way, Shastra says this Brahman is the Satyam. This universe has been superimposed on this Brahman. Essentially, there is no universe. It is only Brahman. There are no different objects. There is no even Panchabhutas. There is no... essentially, everything is one and the same, which is Brahman. Where there is no laptop, there is no... essentially, underlying principle is there is no laptop, there is no phone, there is no water, there is no different things. Essentially, they are only one and the same, which is Brahman. There is nothing in this world other than Brahman, is what Advaita Vedanta says. Now we say, how can you say that? I can feel it, I can touch it, I know that fire has got different properties, I've got water has different properties, earth has different properties, laptop has different function, phone has a different function, each one seems to have different function, different properties. How can we say that essentially they are one and the same? Essentially they are one and the same, and what the Shastra says, it has been just superimposed on you, on Brahman, to say that it looks to you, just like the snake seemed real to you. You had the emotions, you had fear. Then when you prodded the snake, it didn't move, and you realized it was a snake, it was a rope, you got relief. So there was fear until the time those emotions seemed real, the snakes seem real. In the same way, the world seems real to you. And there is another example given, which is Mandukya Upanishad's famous example, the Mandukya Upanishad, the dream example. In dream, we realize we are there in the dream. There are other people in the dream. There is time, there is space. Dream has its own time and space. Everything is in the dream. When we are dreaming, until the time we are coming out of the dream is real. If somebody says within the dream that you are dreaming, I wouldn't believe it. In fact, sometimes even after coming out of the dream, it will take some time for us to adjust that it is after all a dream. It is so seemingly real. So the dream, so you were able to create time, space, objects, emotions. You had, in the dream you could have tasted some good food. In the dream you could have had various emotions, anger, peace of mind, calmness. You could meet different people. Everything is real. But when you wake up, you realize it was actually a dream. And what was possible for the dream to exist, the consciousness principle that is reflected in your mind was able to create this dream for you. So objects were created on seemingly nothing, but because of the consciousness principle that is there, that the reflected consciousness principle that is there in the mind was able to project this dream. In the same way, Advaita Vedanta says this world is a projection of the universal Brahman. And if we are able to, and what is moksha? To realize that I am actually Brahman and I am not limited by these boundaries of this body, then I am able to understand that this world is nothing but mithya. It is just as good as a dream. It will not say it is a dream. It is as good as a dream. When you wake up, will you give importance to the dream? We will not. In the same manner, a realized person will give only as much importance to this world as much as one would give to a dream. So this is the essential oneness of Advaita Vedanta. This is the most important. This is where no other philosophy comes close. No other philosophy talks about this. And there is we can do a lot of vichara on this, especially on the snake rope things, which we would be doing anyway when we discuss Bhagavad Gita. Especially in chapter 2, we would be going in detail on these things. So essentially, this is the most important component, that Jiva and Ishvara are one and the same from the standpoint of Brahman. From the standpoint of Anatma, Jiva is this body-mind complex, Shariratrayam, and Ishvara is Brahman plus Maya, which is the entire universe. Okay? So, this is the Vedanta Shara. We have almost come to an end of the final conclusion. So we started with introduction to Vedanta, when we started with what are the Purusharthas, as in Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. Then we saw how to, the Moksha being the liberation of what? Liberation of this Jiva, to understand that I am Aham Brahmasmi, that is Moksha. To realize that I am Brahman. And how can you realize? Only through knowledge. The only knowledge will help me to realize that I am Brahman. But for me to understand and accept and assimilate and personalize this knowledge, I need to have a pure mind, concentrated mind. And then we said that to get a pure mind, you need to have karma yoga. You have to do karma yoga. You have to concentrated mind. You have to do upasana yoga. And to get this knowledge, you do Jnana Yoga. But then to do Karma Yoga, when do we do Karma Yoga? Essentially, the Shastras basically laid out a framework, which was the Varna Ashrama Dharma. He said, study initially in Brahmacharya, do Karma Yoga when you are Grahastha, do Upasana Yoga in your Vanaprastha, and do Jnana Yoga during your Sannyasa Ashrama. So it laid out that framework. Then he said, okay, what is karma? How do I know what is right karma? What is the wrong karma? How do I know what is my duty? Then it said, look into the Ashrama Dharma. Varna Dharma. So you have, if you Brahmacharya, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, do your karma according to your Swadharma. And then, so long as you do it with Ishvara Arpana and Prasada Buddhi, you will be able to get the Chitta Shuddhi, the pure mind, which makes you qualified for getting this Jnana. And then what are the qualifications to get this Jnana? It said, Viveka, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti and Mumukshutvam, Sadhana Chatushtayam. And then this Viveka, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti comprises of 6. Samaha, Damaha, Uparamaha, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhanam. So all these 9 qualifications, if you get it, then you would be able to understand. When we do this Vichara of Jiva and Ishvara and we say, what are you? Right now it is third party knowledge. If we have the qualifications, we will be able to make the knowledge into our personal knowledge. It is like I am right now reading how to cook, but to make it my talent, to make it my own knowledge, I will have to practice it to get it. And in this case of this Shastra, the practice is to be, there is nothing to practice. It is ensuring that this knowledge gets into my personality. Just like food becomes nutrition, this knowledge needs to become my personality. And for that, for it to become immersed in every cell of my body, and in every action that I am able to reflect this, I will have to get this Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga. I will have to get these qualifications. For that, Bhakti is very important, and we started understanding who is Ishvara, what is Ishvara, how is the relationship, Jiva and Ishvara, what is the Sambandha, how they are one and the same. And as a side note, we also saw what is this Prapancha, what is this Srishti, what is this Pralayam, what is this Srishti. And once we get this knowledge, Aham Brahmasmi, then the question is, how do I get this knowledge? We saw that Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. And once I get this knowledge, there will be, what is the benefit? So what if I get this knowledge? So what if I make this knowledge my own? What is it that is going to be different for me from what I experience today? If I don't have this knowledge, as against if I have this knowledge, as in have this knowledge meaning not like the physics and chemistry that we study and we are able to repeat it or do it, make it my own personality, what is the benefit that I will get? That is called as Jnana Palam. So Jnana Palam we will discuss in the next class. We will also discuss Karma theory, which is again another important topic. So there are 2 more topics that we will have to discuss, which is Jnana Palam, what is the benefit of this knowledge, and then finally Karma theory. And that Karma theory is important because that will give us a perception whether we are even if we are not going on a full-fledged mode to become a mumukshu, the Karma theory will help us to balance certain things that we get in our life. The ups and downs that we face in our life, we will be able to accept and we'll be able to move on with our lives if we have a proper understanding of the karma theory. So we still have 2 more topics to cover, and with that we will be coming to a close of this introduction to Vedanta series. But the key message is this class: Jiva Ishvara Aikyam, Aham Brahmasmi. This is the final culmination of the entire things that we have studied so far. Yeah. So any questions or comments before we close for the day? Should I consider the Shakti of Ishvara as energy or matter or both? The Shakti of Ishvara is Maya. Maya appears as matter, energy, or something beyond causal as well. So energy or matter is just one of the other things that comes out of Maya. And listen, one other thing, when we discuss that this is as good as a dream, we have to understand, as long as we are in the dream is real. If I am hungry in the dream, I have to eat food in the dream to to fulfill my hunger. If I am thirsty in the dream, I have to drink water within the dream to quench my thirst. In the same manner, as long as I identify myself to be this body and mind, all these dharma, shastras, all these are valid. I have to ensure that I do my responsibilities. I cannot sit and say, Aham Brahmasmi, and therefore there is nothing that needs to be done. That luxury I can get only if I understand, only if I come out of the dream, I can have that luxury to say, I don't need the dream water. In the same manner, only once I am realized, I can claim that I am equal to Ishvara. Until the time that I am not able to realize that I am not this body, mind, Ishvara is different, I am different, I will have to do bhakti to Ishvara. I will have to do Shraddha, I will have to have the Shraddha, I will have to follow the Shastras. I cannot claim exemption. The exemption is allowed only for a jnani. Only for a person who has come out of the dream, that person can claim, I don't need the dream water. So here we have to be very clear that we cannot dismiss everything around us as mithya and do it. Karma theory, certain places we can try to do it, but only for us to be able to move on with life, not to get stagnated, not to get caught out in the day-to-day issues. But otherwise we will have to continue to do what the Shastras say in terms of what our duties and responsibilities are. I have not been able to listen to all the classes and catch up. Can I join again if you are doing this class again? If I am doing this class again, I will let people know they can join again. My thought process currently is to, of course, this is the 5th time I'm doing this, I think. But my thought process is to actually start Bhagavad Gita, another round of Bhagavad Gita. Already there is a class going on for Bhagavad Gita, but that has been going on for more than a year. I would want to start another class in parallel now to start the second round of Bhagavad Gita. That will also go on, and this will also go on. In any case, right now you still have these audios and the YouTube videos. You can also listen to them again through that. Yes. Can I listen in sometime and keep you asking you questions for previous lectures? My thought process is, after these two classes where I'm able to cover this karma yoga, karma theory and the jnana phalam, my thought process is to have just two classes where I open it up for people. You can talk, you can give your reflections, you can ask questions, you can share your experience or your feedback for everyone, so that it can be a little more interactive and less formal. We got a beautiful culmination of all the concepts explained in all the previous classes till today. Wonderful eye opener. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Okay, if there are no more questions, then we'll close for the day. Somebody's typing. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mayishaha Go Brahmanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Hari Om.